made their first-round pick. Those other ones were going into the first round, were they not?
All the other ones were leading up to it. This one last year,
Did we not do one leading up to it?
Oh, no, we did, but gave you the goosebumps to listen back to some of those moments from round one last year with all the fans in attendance and Green Bay on 3 and Murphy with the announcement. What a time that was this night last year, wasn't it?
My question for you is this. You can hear all the excitement in everyone's voices, including Matthew Golden. What did we think in that moment his rookie year would look like vis-a-vis what his rookie year wound up looking like?
I thought we'd see more after Thanksgiving. Obviously, he had the big play in the playoff game, but
Thanksgiving.
It never felt like he really got his teeth into the season.
I agree.
He had the one game early where he had a couple of catches. I think it was Arizona, or it was one of those earlier games.
It was a good game against Denver, if I remember right.
I don't know if there was injuries or if it was.
There were.
But then you kind of felt like there was some disgruntlement, and he wasn't getting the opportunities, and maybe he wasn't practicing. I don't know all of the. That's a question for you. Mm-hmm. But I would say his first season went a little bit less than what I expected. I wanted a little bit more, especially with all that juice with Jen and with Strophy and all. Everybody is so jacked up, and Murphy. Mm-hmm. You knew that it wasn't going to be right off the get-go, but oh my God, he doesn't drop a ball in training camp, and it felt Luke Musgravian to me. Like, oh, this is so great, and all this other stuff, and it's like, take a beat, let him kind of get his feet under him, and it never really felt like his feet were underneath him, and he got the opportunity to showcase what he could do until that the playoff game. And that was just not enough. I think he would have probably it's a good sign moving forward, but I think it was less than what my expectations were after they picked him.
The Green Bay Packers leading receivers in 2025 by catches, remembering that Christian Watson missed the first half of the season, and Jayden Reed missed most of the middle section of the season after breaking his collarbone in week 2. Romeo Doubs, 55 receptions. Josh Jacobs, 36. Christian Watson, 35. Tucker Kraft, who also missed the second half of the season, 32. Dontavion Wicks, 30. Matthew Golden, 29. Luke Musgrave, 24. Jayden Reed, 19. So that was the distribution last season. And this is something that I discussed with Matthew late in the season, Emeka Egbuka went to Tampa Bay, and Teteroa McMillan went to Carolina, and both those dudes led their teams in receiving, right? Because they needed those guys to do that right away.
Different circumstances.
Right, for sure. But I think, he did look at them and say, gosh, it'd be nice to have that kind of impact. So my corollary question then is, because I agree with your assessment, and Matthew Golden agrees with your assessment, right? Like, he expected to have a much greater impact, too.
For sure he did.
What do you expect? Like, if he has, here were Romeo Doubs' numbers last year. 55 receptions for 724 yards and 6 touchdowns. The crazy stat about Romeo Doubs is he never had a 1,000-yard season. He never had a 100-yard regular season game, but he had 2 100-yard games in the playoffs out of a possible 4 games he played, which is crazy. If Matthew Golden catches 55 passes for 724 yards and 6 touchdowns the way Romeo Doubs did a year ago, are you happy?
I think for year 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if Watson stays healthy, all of the things, Tucker Kraft. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a fight for that ball. If you got those two guys healthy and Jayden Reed, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong. I know Jayden missed a ton of games last year. He's been the leading receiver when he's been healthy.
First 2 seasons led them in receptions, yes.
Old boy wants to eat.
And he's
Tucker's going to want to eat. Watson's going to want to eat. Golden's going to want to eat. It's probably why Dontavion Wicks is getting Philly cheesesteaks. Because there wasn't enough food here.
good one.
For old boy.
Yeah.
So I think to sit here and think that Matthew Golden's going to be Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, I think is unrealistic. But again, things change real quickly in this league. Real quickly. And you have to be super optimistic about what you saw in that playoff game. He's got wiggle. He's got top-end speed. It's just a matter of figuring it out and finding his role and then just outplaying it and growing into another role. Because I think in a perfect world, Green Bay would love to see Matthew Golden pop and almost say he's going to be the number one wideout moving forward, and then that gives them the leverage to maybe not have to pay a Christian Watson $40 million.
Yeah.
Like that, you look at this because if they're going to pay Tucker Kraft top dollar, which they're going to, Christian Watson's injury history is still going to be a concern, regardless of how good he plays. Matthew Golden, if he elevates himself and you could see him as your number one moving forward, does that change your math, what you do with Watson? And then, in turn, does that change your math, what you do with Reed? And then if that changes what you do with the guy you're drafting brazenly in the first round, all of a sudden, all this thing changes. So Matthew Golden was drafted. Let's not kid ourselves. He's drafted to be number one wideout. Mm-hmm. You don't take a kid number 23 and all that fanfare, all that excitement to say, you know what, you'll be a nice 3 or 4 for us. They want him to elevate.
Yeah.
They want him to be that number one wideout. They'd love to pay him in 2 years. You pay Jayden Reed, a top 3, low 2, and you let Christian Watson kind of, all right, maybe you can get him at a more reasonable rate, and all of a sudden now you feel great about your receiver room for the next 5 or 6 years.
Matthew Golden in that playoff game against the Bears, 4 catches for 84 yards, including a 36-yarder and a touchdown.
Yep.
His first NFL touchdown after not getting a touchdown in the regular season. And Romeo Doubs.
If they draft your guy in that 52nd pick, it's lights out for Watson. His days are done here.
How do we? And by the way, Romeo Doubs in that
or
game,
Reed, one of the two.
8 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown as well. Reed, Watson, Golden, and Doubs all had touchdown catches in that game. Wicks, by the way, inactive with a concussion. Where do you come down on Watson? Because we have been a pro-Watson program, really, from the time that he was being...
You've been rough on him. I've been. Wow, you called him spindly.
First of all, I called him wiry. Secondly,
I've been rough on him.
He has Jesse compared him to Alan Lazard.
See, good thing he doesn't miss time with hurt feelings, because I might have said a few things about him over the years.
That was a moronic take. You're not a moron, Jesse, but that was a moronic take.
I understand, and I accept that feedback.
I like Christian Watson a lot. I like him as a dude. I like him as a unicorn player. I think it's unfair in recent years to ding him. The 2024 season, he started 15 of the 17 games, and he shouldn't have been on the field for the finale in which he tore his ACL. The only reason they played him was because he wanted to play when Romeo Doubs was sick. And looking back on that, they should no, we don't need you today. We'll be fine. Because they didn't really, they had a chance to win the game. They didn't sit all their guys like they did in the famous Minnesota game that I covered. But they didn't have a lot to gain, and you saw that kind of influence their approach a little bit. More durable than he probably has gotten credit for in the last 2 years. The ACL tear, a major injury. How do you view him? Because this is what it's all about: is figuring out what is a good deal for him and for the team that keeps him here. Goody said he thinks it would be best for both sides for them to get something done, but Goody probably has a number in mind when he says that.
Yeah, I would think it's going to be in the high 20s is where Goody's going to feel comfortable, and I'm sure Watson's looking at it like I need to be in the high 30s, and he's probably given something. So if you mesh and get into the middle of that's a lot. Christian Watson you said he's a unicorn. He's a stud. He's fast. He's tall. He's gotten better. He's a leader. He's somebody you want in your locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a perfect world, you're going to have to factor in that he has had injury issues. Like that's the reality. And if
you're right.
There's going to be a lot of teams that will want him on their team because that high-end speed is he's a great leaper. He is everything you want. You give me grief all the time, but he's in the same sentence as Randy Moss as his rookie season. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen to Alan Lazard, Jesse. I haven't heard Lazard be compared to Moss in anything. So Christian Watson is a stud. I'd love to have him on this football team for the next 4 or 5 years, but if there's going to be a monster contract that's handed out, it's going to have to be on the Packers side of this. And I'm not sure that's going to be how it plays out. So we'll see. If I'm Green Bay, I am treading carefully with it. And you do want to see where Matthew Golden is because at the bottom line on this is I don't want to be in a Cincinnati Bengals situation. I'm not interested in paying top dollar on wideouts, especially if my quarterback is as good as he is. I don't need that. I want young guys coming in. I want to have my guy. I want my Devontae, my Jordy, my Randall. I want that. Randall Cobb was never really a 1. Randall Cobb was always a 2. Mm-hmm. And he was paid very well. And as long as you're in that zone where you're in that elevator era, I'm fine with it. It's when you start getting into the older and you're breaking down a little bit, Christian has to showcase that he can get through a full season healthy. That I do believe.
Let's give away